Hello and welcome to Wits In. Today we're going to be talking about indirect objects. They are a type of complement that comes after a transitive action verb. Let's review that real quickly. Okay, so let's say we've got our subject. How about Gary from Chicago? And Gary does something. Let's say that Gary hugs. So Gary hugs. That's a complete thought. It's a subject, it's a verb, it could stand on its own. But sometimes we have more information than just the subject and the verb in a sentence. Sometimes the subject does the action to something. For example, Gary hugs Meryl Streep. Now in this case, Meryl Streep is the direct object. She is the person receiving the action from Gary. He's doing something to her. And so this verb hugs is a transitive action verb. Now you can also give something to someone. For example, Gary gives a hug. Now in this case, the action verb is gives, and the direct object is a hug. But what if we combine this thought with our previous thought? That's where we get indirect objects. When we are doing the action towards something with something else, which I know sounds confusing, but let me map that out for you. That creates an indirect object. So we've got our subject, Gary. Now Gary gives a hug. That's the action verb, okay? He's giving a hug. A hug, that's our direct object, even though a is an article. Hug is the direct object. But he's giving Meryl Streep a hug in this sentence. So Meryl Streep is the indirect object. She is indirectly receiving the action that is being performed on the direct object. So let's look at that definition. An indirect object is a noun, pronoun, or word group that tells to whom or to what the action of the verb is done. Now that's a little bit confusing, so let's look at some examples. Denzel gave Gary a wedding ceremony. Alright, so Denzel's our subject, the action is gave. He gave a wedding ceremony. Ceremony would be our direct object, but who did he give it to? He gave it to Gary. So in this case, Gary is our indirect object. He's indirectly receiving the action performed on the direct object. Let's look at another example that answers the question to what? Gary gave the internet a new meme. Gary's our subject. Gave is the action verb. What did Gary give? A meme. Okay, so meme is the direct object, but what did he give that meme to? Well, he gave it to the internet. So internet, in this example, is an indirect object. Indirect objects can be compound, just like direct objects. Let's look at some examples. Gary bought his friends and family a picture of Denzel. Gary is the subject. Bought is the action verb. He bought a picture. Okay, so picture would be the direct object. But who is the indirect recipient of this direct object? Friends and family. So friends, and then the word family, that's a compound indirect object. Here's another example. He sent his boss, his mom, and his brother some selfies. He's the subject. Sent's the action verb. What did he send? Selfies. But he sent it to somebody, and so we've got boss, mom, and brother acting as a compound indirect object. Let's take a look at three more examples. They gave the wrong people an award. They's the subject. Gave is the action. What did they give? An award. So award is the direct object. But whom did they give it to? People. So people in this case is the indirect object. She told the audience it was La La Land. She's the subject. Told is the action verb. What did she tell? She told it was La La Land. So it was La La Land as a word group is our direct object, but whom did she tell that to? Well, the audience. So audience is the indirect object in this sentence. One more example. They handed the presenters the awards and left the stage. They is the subject. Handed and left are the verbs. Now left the stage, there is no indirect object because left what? The stage. So stage is the direct object, left is the action verb. But handed what? Awards. So awards is the direct object. Whom did they hand them to? Presenters. So presenters is the indirect object. Let's take a look at some nevers before we wrap this up. Indirect objects are never going to follow a linking verb. The indirect object will also never be part of a prepositional phrase. Justin Timberlake gave an award to the winner. Okay, Justin Timberlake is the subject. Gave is the action. What did he give? An award. Who did he give it to? Winner. But that does not create an indirect object because winner is a part of a prepositional phrase. Let's look at another example using the exact same subject and verb and see if we get a different result. Justin Timberlake gave Jimmy Kimmel a look. Justin Timberlake is the subject. Gave is the action. Gave what? Look. That's the direct object. To whom did he give it to? Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel is an indirect object here. He's not a part of a prepositional phrase, and he's not following a linking verb. Remember, guys, indirect objects are nouns, pronouns, or word groups that tell whom or what the action is being done to. Hopefully this video will help you identify indirect objects in your sentences, and if you need help with anything else, just stop by Wits In.